I told you I hate this food. Are you trying to annoy me by making it? Your husband might like it, but I don't. Cook something else right now." This was my mother-in-law, always critical and sarcastic. I wasn't sure how much more of her bullying I could handle. For a while, I thought I'd just have to put up with her behavior forever. But then, something happened that changed everything. My name is Ellen. I've been married to my husband, George, for 3 years. We live with his parents in their house. George is often away for work and is currently on a business trip. I used to feel uneasy when he wasn't around, but now I'm so busy that I barely have time to miss him. My daily routine is exhausting. I wake up at dawn to make breakfast for my father-in-law, who wakes up early. While he eats, I clean the house and do laundry. Once he's done, I wash the dishes. After finishing all the chores, I rush to get ready for my part-time job. When I return home in the evening, I cook dinner, clean again, do more laundry, and finally call it a day. But the hardest part of my life isn't the workload, it's dealing with my mother-in-law's constant bullying. Even though she stays home all day and doesn't do any housework, she finds fault with everything I do. She complains about the food I cook and says the house isn't clean enough. Even after I spend hours scrubbing and tidying, she goes out of her way to make me feel small and worthless. She seems to enjoy bullying me. She's well known in the neighborhood for being flashy and showing off. She wears jewelry that doesn't suit her and walks around as if she's important. The neighbors pretend to compliment her, but I know they don't mean it. They just want to avoid getting on her bad side. This is because of my father-in-law. He used to be an executive at a big local company and is still respected in the community, even though he's retired. Many people in the neighborhood work for the same company, so they stay polite to avoid upsetting him. This is why the neighbors cared so much about my mother-in-law. Even though my father-in-law was a kind and humble man, my mother-in-law acted bossy because of his status. The neighbors didn't like her attitude, but they never said anything to her face. I felt completely alone. No matter how badly my mother-in-law treated me, I had no one to confide in. Everyone in the neighborhood seemed to just tolerate her. But my father-in-law was different. He was always thoughtful and caring toward me. After retiring, he started getting sick more often. Sadly, he was eventually diagnosed with advanced cancer. The doctors told him to prepare for the worst. Unlike my mother-in-law, my father-in-law was kind and respectful. I appreciated everything he had done for our family, especially how he provided financial security. To show my gratitude, I did my best to take care of him. I spent time talking to him, played cards with him, and prepared meals that were easy for him to eat and full of nutrients. He appreciated my efforts and often thanked me with kind words. "Thank you, you make my days so much brighter." I always replied, "I'm just doing what I can, don't worry about it." He even apologized for his wife's behavior. "I'm sorry for the way she treats you. She doesn't help with anything around the house, and it's not fair to you." I could see that he felt bad about how his wife acted, but his gentle nature made it hard for him to confront her. Still, it meant a lot to me that he acknowledged how difficult she made my life. One day, he said, "Ellen, I'm sorry you've had to take on so much. Please don't feel like you have to do all this for me." I held his hand and said, "Don't say that. I just want to give back for everything you've done for me." He squeezed my hand, tears in his eyes, and whispered, "Thank you." But then, things got worse. My father-in-law's health declined rapidly, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. He was unconscious when the ambulance took him, and the doctors warned us to prepare for the worst. Seeing him in that state broke my heart. I couldn't stop crying as I watched him struggle, his face showing so much pain. I thought my mother-in-law must be devastated too, so I tried to comfort her, but her reaction shocked me. With a cold expression, she said, "He's not going to recover, but at least his inheritance will be enough." Her words made me furious. How could she think about money at a time like this? Even though my father-in-law was still in a coma, I visited him every day. I sat by his side and talked to him, hoping he could hear me somehow. I kept talking to my father-in-law at the hospital every day, hoping he'd wake up and respond, but he didn't show any signs of waking up. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law never came to visit him. "Why don't you go see your husband once in a while?" I asked her. "Don't tell me what to do. I'm too busy to waste my time at a hospital," she snapped. Whenever I encouraged her to visit him, she just said more horrible things. Once, she even said, "Hey Ellen, you bring him clean clothes every day, right? Just tell everyone I did it. Don't mess up and say it was you." She wanted to take credit for something she never did. She also said, "He'll never wake up, and his inheritance is mine." Don't you dare tell anyone anything different. Her selfishness made me furious. She only cared about his money, not his well-being. At home, my mother-in-law's bullying got worse since my father-in-law wasn't around. "Stop talking about visiting him and get cooking," she barked one day. "It's not time to make dinner yet. I'm going to the hospital now and will cook when I get back," I replied. "You're so annoying, Ellen. I've told you 100 times, he's just going to die and leave me his money. He doesn't need your visits or sympathy," she said coldly. Hearing her insult my father-in-law made me want to lash out, but I held my tongue. Then, one day, I got an unexpected call from the hospital. "Is it true? Thank God," I cried. My father-in-law had woken up from his coma, and his condition was stable. I was overjoyed. I rushed to the hospital with my mother-in-law. "Welcome back. I'm so glad to see you," I said. "Thank you, Ellen. I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble," my father-in-law said with a gentle smile. My mother-in-law suddenly put on an act. "Oh, honey, I took care of you every single day," she said sweetly. "You did? You even brought clean clothes for me?" he asked. "Yes, I did everything," she lied confidently. She glanced at me, expecting me to back up her lie, but I ignored her. She looked annoyed, but I didn't care. My father-in-law noticed her strange behavior. When my mother-in-law left the room in a bad mood, he turned to me. "Ellen, are you okay?" he asked. "What do you mean?" I replied, surprised. Her attitude was strange. "I have a feeling you're the one who's been taking care of me this whole time," he said. He had seen through her lies. "Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but since you're asking, I think you need to know the truth," I said. I had been keeping evidence of my mother-in-law's cruel behavior, just in case. I pulled out my voice recorder and played it for him. On the recording, her voice said things like, "When my husband dies, all his inheritance is mine. I want him to die soon. Taking care of him is a waste of my time." The recording was filled with her cruel words. I looked at my father-in-law, worried about how he'd react to the recording, but instead, he started laughing. "She's turned into such a greedy woman, hasn't she? I can't give any of my inheritance to someone like that," he said with a bitter smile. Though he laughed, I could feel his anger beneath the surface. A few days later, his health improved enough for him to be discharged from the hospital. Back at home, my mother-in-law started bragging to him about how hard it had been to take care of him. My father-in-law didn't argue, he just listened quietly. Not long after, my husband returned from his business trip to check on his father. "Sorry I couldn't come sooner," my husband said. "I'm fine now, as you can see, but how's work?" my father-in-law asked. "Work is good, they've moved my office closer, so now I can commute easily," my husband replied. My father-in-law smiled warmly. "I'm glad you and Ellen are here for me." From that point on, my husband and I continued to care for him. Although he recovered temporarily, his health never fully came back, and he became weaker each day. This time, I knew the end was near. My husband and I promised each other we'd do our best to be there for him until the very end. My mother-in-law, however, stayed the same. She barely spent any time at home and didn't care for him at all. She was always out, leaving everything to us. As my father-in-law grew weaker, he began eating less and less. It was clear his time was running out. One day, with great effort, he spoke his final words to us. "Thank you both, so much. I've left a will for you. Please read it after I'm gone. You were so kind to care for me until the very end." With those words, he passed away peacefully. There were many people at my father-in-law's funeral. It was touching to see how much he was respected and loved by so many. On the other hand, my mother-in-law seemed oddly cheerful. She acted like she was the one who brought everyone together, going around telling people that she had taken care of him until the very end. She didn't shed a single tear, but she pretended to cry, which was unsettling. I wanted to call her out for her lies, but I decided to stay quiet to keep the peace during the funeral. After all, this was about honoring my father-in-law. The funeral went smoothly, and I felt relieved knowing my father-in-law could rest in peace. When we got home, though, my mother-in-law's true colors came out. "Funerals are so exhausting," she said with a sigh. Then, with a grin, she added, "Well, at least now I have the inheritance to look forward to. I can finally enjoy life." She seemed confident the inheritance was hers and even started planning how to spend the money. That's when my husband brought out the will. "Mom, Before you get ahead of yourself, Dad left a will. We haven't read it yet, but it mentions the inheritance, he said. I don't need to see it, it's all mine, she declared. Let's read it anyway, my husband replied calmly. As he opened the will, my mother-in-law snatched it and began reading. Her face went pale. What is this? She stammered, frozen in shock. I took the will and read it aloud. It stated that my father-in-law had left everything to me. He wanted the inheritance to be used by me and my husband together. My husband nodded. Ellen cared for Dad while I was away. This makes sense, Dad was so grateful to her. This isn't fair, my mother-in-law screamed. She's just a stranger, she must have forged the will, she tricked him. Stop it, Mom, my husband snapped. You never took care of Dad. I know everything, both Ellen and Dad told me how you acted, that's why he chose to leave everything to Ellen. My mother-in-law broke down, crying hysterically. Please, at least let me keep the house, she begged. I felt a little sorry for her losing the home she had lived in for so long. To calm her down, I decided to give her part of the inheritance. You can keep the house, I said firmly, and I'll give you some money too, but from now on, you'll have to live on your own. We'll move out, so the house will be yours. Her mood changed instantly. Oh, thank you, I was so scared I'd lose the house too, she said, relieved. If you're going to leave, then just go, she snapped at me. And then she immediately went back to being her usual rude self. I was frustrated for falling for her fake crying, but at least if I left, I would never have to deal with her again. The thought of being free from her was more important than giving her a small portion of the inheritance. A week later, we started looking for a place to live. We planned to move into an apartment for now and eventually build our own house. Thanks to my father-in-law's inheritance, we were able to afford a beautiful house. I even planned to build a small altar for my father-in-law, as a way to honor him for everything he did for us. I was thrilled knowing that I could finally live without the fear of my mother-in-law's judgment. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law hadn't changed. She was still spending money recklessly, living as if nothing had happened. But with my husband and I gone, the neighbors started to shift their attitudes. They no longer needed to worry about her now that my father-in-law was gone, and they began talking about her behind her back. My mother-in-law continued her extravagant lifestyle, spending more than she had, including draining her savings and pension. Eventually, she had to sell the house she had fought so hard to keep. Now, she has no home and no job, and I have no idea what she's doing. She's no longer a part of my life, and honestly, I don't care where she goes or what happens to her.